to the Press Row Show. Not the number 5 rated, 4 rated, 3 rated, 2 rated, but the number 1 rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show this side of the Mississippi and south of the Arctic Circle. I'm Russ Choi. Bundy will be joining me very shortly. Intern Andrew's over here. Where's Anthony SanFilippo? Is he down in the locker room? Is he searching out Kevin Hayes tonight? No. He's coming to us from Florida.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
This man ducked Kevin Hayes.
No, I did not.
He got out of town.
Do not put that.
He got out of town.
Do not put that nonsense
and I'll tell you
into
what,
the world.
His fiance would probably say that when it came to booking this vacation, Anthony SanFilippo's fingerprints were all over it. All right, Ant,
No.
I have to tell you.
First of all, it's not a vacation for me.
Uh-huh.
It may be a vacation for Maria,
Uh-huh.
but I'm working my butt cheeks off. Oh, by the way, for all the people who think that I'm
Make sure you bring up
people,
every comment where people are calling him out.
and that's fine.
Before you explain yourself,
you don't need to-
the number
go ahead.
of people who have been up here pregame that have listeners of the show, they've been like, did Anthony plan this? Was this all part of the plan? And I said, no, apparently he planned this months in advance. But there are people who think that the timing's a little bit suspicious, Anthony.
Well, we talked about that at the time when everything was blowing up, and it was like, oh, great, I'm going to be in Florida and miss the St. Louis game.
Yes.
You know, which is kind of ridiculous. But the point is, what most people do not know. Now, in seasons past, when the Flyers had a road game on trade deadline day, right? The general manager would stay behind in Voorhees, and everything would take place up at Flyers Training Center, okay? This year, the Flyers will be holding their operations for the day of the trade deadline in South Florida, southwestern Florida, in Tampa, which is 25 minutes from where I am currently stationed.
So you're going to be embedded in the war room is what you're saying.
Let's just put it this way. I will be over there talking to Danny Briere on Friday afternoon.
Before or after the deadline?
I will be over there talking to Danny Briere on Friday afternoon.
Wow. Well, this is what you come to the Press Row Show for. It's that kind of insight. Ant will be down there doing something. Will he get anything of value? I don't know. We'll find out.
I can give you some value for the trade deadline. What about that? You want some stuff?
Do you have some value now?
I get some value. I think there's some value with what I have to say.
I may or may not have picked up a little bit of intel myself, so go ahead.
My prediction at this point, again, we are still 4 days out. My prediction at this point is the Flyers will trade one player from their roster.
Only one.
Only one. Are you disappointed by this, Russ?
Okay, go ahead.
I think that Sean Walker will get moved. What they get in return, we'll see. But I do think that that's one that will happen. I don't think Nick Seeler gets traded. In fact, I think Nick Seeler gets re-signed. I do not think Scott Lawton gets moved. Could the Flyers potentially add a goaltender, a backup goaltender? Potentially. And it would cost them only if it would be a guy who was either put on waivers or would cost them a late pick. A late pick. Like a 5th, 6th, 7th round kind of guy. Nothing more than that. They will not move a higher asset.
All right, I think I'm going to go home.
That's my prediction. It's my prediction.
Okay.
Did you yell at intern Andrew, by the way?
I did not yell at him. Why?
Because he is just putting up every comment on the screen.
Well, I
today.
said to him, I was hoping that he was going to.
He's normally more selective.
Nah, he's focused tonight. Because he knows there's a chance that I'm going to bring him on and he's going to offer plenty of insight beyond second intermission, where, by the way, he does a great job with trivia. And he is now officially our Snow the Goalie research department. So he's becoming a bigger part of the show, which is good for him.
He's certainly a bigger part of the show, which is great.
And you didn't trust him. But you know what?
Yeah, I didn't trust him. That's right.
Old Russ here always believed in intern Andrew.
I didn't trust him.
Yep.
I mean, he's even giving valuable seconds to the trolls. So.
Oh, we got a super chat in here. Anthony.
Yeah, let's
Rory
get to it.
says, not sure if you've covered it, but thoughts on Torts publicly saying they're not trading Seeler, giving him being in the press box with Danny vibes.
I think that it's more of the line that they've come to the determination. Again, they won't do it before Friday. They won't sign him before Friday. But it's more of they don't think that there will be movement enough to get the value that they think there is for Nick Seeler deserves. Like, again, it's weighing value, right? It's not as simple or as cut and dry as unrestricted free agent. You got to trade them or else you don't get anything in return. That was the situation with James Van Riemsdyk a year ago because you knew they weren't re-signing James Van Riemsdyk, right?
Yeah.
So there was no weighing the value. Anything that you got in a trade for James Van Riemsdyk, even if it was a 7th-round draft pick, would have been better than the nothing you got, right? So there's a big difference with that one. With Nick Seeler, you're weighing your option of either they give us what we think he's worth, or we're going to keep the player. And
what,
not
pray
just keep
tell, do they think he's worth?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I think that they are still kind of looking for a high draft pick
for Nick Seeler
in return. Yeah, like a second rounder. I think that they can get a second rounder for Nick Seeler.
Okay.
Whether they get it, but they may not get it, right? So in that case, here's the thing. So they look at it and say, can we get Nick Seeler signed for 3 years at a cap number that we are comfortable with? And is that more valuable to us than, let's say, somebody's offering a 3rd-round pick or a 4th-round pick? What's more valuable? And so to them, keeping him for 3 years at a certain number is more valuable than the pick that they would have gotten, right? Similar to what they did with Lawton when they signed Lawton. Everybody thought he was going to get traded, and they didn't, and they signed him, right? So that's the situation on Seeler. With Walker, I don't think that they want to go 5 years, which is what he's looking for, and his agent is not coming off of that. It has not. Now, again, it could be a game of chicken, and they change their mind as they get to the end of the week, and things can change. But I don't think that they're going to get to that point with Walker. In which case, it's a situation where they say, "Listen, we'll trade Walker. We'll get value for Walker. He'll test the market. He'll have an opportunity potentially to come back here in the offseason. If not, he could go. If he could get that 5 years somewhere else, good on you. Go get it. But you're not going to get it here. So that's the kind of situation that they're going to face with Walker. Let's take the assets rather than lose the player for nothing. So I think that's the difference between these two defensemen. I mean, I don't know how you want to go against that rationale. I think it's realistic. Now, do I think that we're going to have a disappointing argument on the money? I think for Nick Seeler, because I think Nick Seeler's probably going to get a little bit more than most people think he deserves. But I think a lot of people think in terms of the salary cap as it is right now, and not as the salary cap is what it's going to be next year or years beyond as it continues to go up every season now that we're finally out of the lockout freeze on the salary cap.
It sounds like a good recipe, and I have to keep taking my headphones off because I'm sick of hearing myself on a 3/4 second delay. But this sure sounds like And I see the people saying it in the comments, and I know that it's been going around. Like, was the whole concept of a rebuild lip service? Is John Tortorella winning out because he wants to win games? And, like, I got to be honest, Ant. Like, Seeler, we had this conversation last game. I'd encourage people to go back and watch that or listen to it in the podcast feed. We did all of the press row show from the other day is now available in the podcast feed as well. And, like, what we talked about was just because a team is willing to give money to one of your guys doesn't mean you have to be the one to do it. Seeler, I totally get. I think the Seeler thing is a little bit different than Walker, because if you look at this draft and the fact that this draft is being kind of panned in a lot of ways, if the best you can do for Seeler is a 4th-round pick and you think, all right, we're going to still be in playoff contention, I don't know. Like, the 4th doesn't do it for me. I can understand them saying, we're going to stand pat and have that guy know he can be part of the team. And if you make the playoffs, you say, good, he's a good guy to have in the playoffs. The Walker thing, to me, is the one that you and I have gone back and forth about so much. I think it's a weird situation they're in because, again, if there's a 2nd rounder and you're not that close on terms, you've got to take that. You have to take an asset if it's available.
And I think they will. I think they will get. I think that they think that they're going to get to where they need to get to.
Maybe.
For Walker. I do. I think that they're going to get there. And they think that. They don't think that the offers are going to be there for Seeler. And that's what I think it's going to be. So I think Walker does end up getting moved.
Again, you think about, like, the cascade of the way that one variable changes the entire equation. Risto getting hurt is the thing that I think blew up the whole strategy.
It didn't help. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't say it blew it up, because you still would have needed a team to take that contract, and you would be eating some salary this season. Probably would have to be one of your 2 retentions for the season. So it changes the dynamics of how you approach the deadline, because there's other ways to get assets, like we talked about on the last show. There's other ways to get assets with this team. Without trading players, and that's being a third-party broker in other deals.
Which is good if it happens. If it doesn't, though, and, like, sometimes it is hard to negotiate a 3-team trade, right?
Yeah.
You don't see a million of them in the NHL, right? In theory, it's great. It's great to be able to be that facilitator, but if it doesn't amount to anything, if you have another trade deadline where in the aftermath you're like, oh, well, trades are hard, then cool. Like, you had a card to play and you didn't play it. Or you weren't able to play it. This whole thing worries me. I don't like this at all.
I'm sure you don't. I'm sure you don't. Because I think that you have the perspective that a lot of antsy Flyers fans have, and that is, I want results of this rebuild now. And it doesn't necessarily have to be. It is certainly capable, and I'm going to answer Philip Albert's question in a second. We'll get to it. Leave it up on the screen, Andrew. It can certainly be 2 things happening at the same time. You can rebuild at the same time as being in a playoff race.
A lot of teams don't do it, though, Ant.
No, but and I don't think that the Flyers meant to do it that way either. It just turned out to be that way because the rest of the division is not really that good. I mean, let's be honest. If the Devils were the Devils of last year, are the Flyers in a playoff spot right now?
No.
Right. If the Islanders were halfway decent, are the Flyers in the playoff spot?
Nope.
Are the Capitals were the Capitals, or the Penguins were the Penguins? If any of that was happening, the Flyers wouldn't be in this conversation.
True.
But what's happened is that the rest of the division has fallen back to them, and they just happen to have a team that's playing good, cohesive hockey that would have been competitive in games, but probably lost more games had any of those teams been better. And the reality of it is that they're ahead of them. So this doesn't change it. They're not selling assets to get better. That's not what they're doing. But they can still compete and rebuild at the same time. And if you don't think that they can, you're sorely mistaken, because they're not going to sabotage what would be the long-term plan for this organization just to make a playoff push this year. That will not happen at this deadline, no matter what anybody says, no matter what ridiculous comments we see on our screen from the same person over and over again. None of that's going to happen.
Pull it up.
Now, to answer Philip Albert, since Russ and Bundy are doing tech stuff, he said, can we have Ant make a tortellini torts and gift it to him like Kramer gave Seinfeld? Silly Jerry. Maybe meant some fences. Thanks, Philip. That would be nice. But I think that this is an edge thing for Torts. He feels like he needs that edge, and he's going to keep doing it, and that's okay.
Well, we were talking a bunch of different things. We were talking about the there we go. Let's get Bundy on there. There we go.
All right.
We were talking about the deadline, and then Philip Albert with a great super chat about Ant trying to extend a peace offering from one paisan to another. But we were talking about the deadline again, as we always do, and about the fact that now Anthony says that he thinks that Walker's more likely to be dealt than Seeler, certainly, and seems like Ant is more 60-40. They trade Walker.
I think it's getting more than that. I think that they've come to the determination that the offers will be there for Walker. I guess the only question is, does Walker's camp come back off of what their hope is for term? And if they do, then you have a decision to make, right? Whether you take the assets or sign him to a shorter contract that they would be more happy with. But I don't think that the offers are there for Seeler, Bundy. I think that Seeler is going to be re-signed by the Flyers unless something really, really changes in the next 4 days.
And I'm stunned by that, to be honest with you, because I thought there'd be people that would be jumping on the Seeler wagon too. But here's my issue, and I just talked to Jason Martinez and Brian Smith on Flyers. It just depends what his asking price is and the term for me. And I openly said it, like, I love Nick Seeler, but I don't love $4 million Nick Seeler. No. You know, like, and again, those are the numbers we've heard, and there's some agent that could possibly justify that. But for me, that's the non-starter.
Yeah, but what if it's a 3-year deal, Bundy? 2 or 3 year deal?
No. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I love Seeler, but I can't love him at that number because I really feel they're going to need that money more for an offensive piece. Nick Seeler is, some people hate to say this, you can force a guy to be a shot blocker, to be determined, and you got to go out and find that. He's got a lot of heart, and he represents everything that a Flyer is, but it just comes to pricing for me.
Does it change your mind, though, Bundy, when you think about what the salary cap's going to be in the next year, 2 years, 3 years? Because really, you know, you can have a third pair guy making less money like that, and it'd be, or making that money, and it'd be towards the bottom of what guys are making that are veterans, that are that age. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what the Flyers are going to say? Well, we gave him a chance. You know, he wouldn't be here if he didn't get a chance to reinvent himself. And he's the toughest one for me because I know people are going to call about Walker. They're going to want a two-way defenseman that can get the puck out of the zone and play defensively. But for Seeler, you know what his limitations are, and because he doesn't have that offensive flair, he becomes a third pair or a 7 over time.
And he's also, 31?
Yeah. He did.
Look, if the thing that drives me nuts, I know that I'm the one that typically is the one that kind of gets framed as being, the loon. Giving mediocre at best players.
You said it, not me.
I'm just saying, giving mediocre at best players term, salary, and then using the excuse that the cap's going to go up, it's found money, it won't matter as much. That's how you end up in mediocrity. And that, again, is how you end up in hockey purgatory. And I think it is a horrific idea. Even at $3.5 million for 4 years, I don't like that for Nick Seeler. The reason that Nick Seeler is so valuable to this team right now, beyond the intangibles, is he's making less than $1 million. He's making $775,000. If you were to extend everybody who's currently on their current cap hit, and you give Nick Seeler $3 million, $3.5, $4, he's the second highest paid defenseman on the team. Third. Behind Sanheim at just over 6, Risto at just over 5. So, I get the idea that, hey, there's going to be money, but, just because you have the money coming in doesn't mean you light it on fire. That's like how you end up broke. Like that's how you end up in like bad
I will correct you
financial,
on one
go ahead.
thing that you mentioned. He's a very, very serviceable player. Like he's not like a maligned player. He can make an impact on a team just with his shot blocking and his desire, effort, heart, and being a good guy. But there's a price limit for that, and for me, it's like between 2.3 and 2.6, and that's it. And that 2.6 at the highest on a 3-year, no more than that. And that's for your third pair or seventh D.
Yeah.
I don't know if that to me is a significant raise, and because both the Flyers and the player did a lot for each other, and there has to be some middle ground in that.
Well, and I can also add on to that. Risto, right? We've talked a bunch of times that teams have been interested in him for the better part of a year and a half. They haven't pulled the trigger on a deal, presumably because they didn't think the value that they were getting offered was worth it. We've talked about the fact that in the offseason, if they do move Risto, they're going to have to eat salary. So it's like, okay, you're paying Risto and Seeler a combined, 6.2, right, to have both of those guys on the roster. If you give Seeler $4 million, 3.5, and then you have to eat half of Risto's money just to move him out, you're still at that number, and you're paying Risto not to be here.
I'm going to give you guys another little secret that goes on in contract negotiation. Nick Seeler will use 55's contract as leverage.
Yeah.
That's why he's asking what he's asking. He just looks down the road at Risto and goes, 5.1? Me, 4.1.
Yeah.
So, it does happen. There's always guys on a team that say, oh, yeah, guy's making a little bit more than me. But no one cares in the locker room. But I can assure you the agent's telling him, that guy makes 5.1, you should be making 4 at least.
Well, and then, okay, so Seeler makes 2.6, right? He wants what, Ant? 5? 4.5 over 5 years?
I think he's looking in the 4.5 range.
Okay.
And not 5 years. You keep saying that. You're conflating him and Walker. I think that
I said
Seeler,
Walker. No, didn't I say Walker? I meant Walker. I did mean Walker. Did I say?
You said
I might have said
Seeler.
Seeler. I meant Walker.
Yeah, you meant Walker. So Walker wants 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah,
Does he want $5 million? Does it 4.5?
About 4.5. Yeah.
Like that's a pretty significant increase. Now, if they think that because the injury he had at the point in his career when he had an injury is what
this guy said it
inhibited his growth, like if that's their calculus they do,
Thank you,
I guess that's
Daniel.
one thing, but no, there you go.
Yeah, but so you're right, and he's right. But I think the reality of it is that Rasmus Ristolainen's not going to be part of the Flyers next year.
Somebody has to take him though. Risto.
Well, we don't know that.
A team has to take him.
There was serious interest in him before the injury. The debate that teams were having was, do they want him now or do they want him in the off season? That's what the debate was with Risto.
I think his issue is going to be money. They're going to have to send money with him because you're not going to be able to move that deal 1-for-1 or whatever.
And that's part of the problem too, because what's the thing we always go back to? All right, well, if you retain 40% of his salary versus 60, 65 because you get a better draft pick, maybe you think about doing it, but that's still a pretty long deal. It's dead money. It's a real issue. I don't know. By the way, though.
So let me ask you this. Though. You're complaining about it, though, Russ. But
yeah,
what's the solution then? If you don't eat some of that money to get rid of it, what's the solution?
Well, you're going to have to. I'm saying you're going to have to eat the money if you're going to move off it. But
if you're moving a guy with money left on it, you don't want the guy here.
Yeah.
So you're openly saying we need to get rid of him, and that's what they want to do. So by giving away money with them tells you just how much they want to get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what they're going to be doing.
Well, yeah, but also, Bundy, you get something in return for that.
But it depends what it is. Because
you're still...
Remember Ghost? We had to give a second with them.
Yeah, but that ain't happening. Danny's not doing that.
But the money becomes a problem, and we're still going to have to eat some of it.
Yep.
Yeah, they'll eat some of the money. There's no question about it. But you will get something in return for eating some of the money. So another team looks at Risto and says, "Oh, if they're willing to eat 40% of the salary, now we're only paying him, $3 million instead of 5.1. Oh, we'll give them something for that. We'll give them a higher draft pick, or we'll give them a prospect player.
One thing I will tell everybody, we do love the interaction. And, it is kind of spitballing, and we're having fun with it, but these are my own takes, and that's if I put myself with the GM hat on. But they got some decisions to make. I rode the elevator with Danny up today, and I said, "How you doing? Busy?" And he looked at me. He says, "You know what? Not really. Right now, I'm not." How's everyone doing?
Wait, remember? What was it? Fletcher Moore last year was like, "Well, I made a lot of calls. Trades are hard." I don't know. The thing that I think is slightly maddening is these aren't the conversations that we expected to have this trade deadline. Going into the season, we figured Walker, we didn't know what Walker was going to be. It was, you'd probably move off him because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. Same with Seeler. That teams would be interested in Lawton. Once Paling really showed you what he has, you kind of figured, all right, well, not necessarily a redundant skill set, but certainly makes Lawton a little bit more expendable. And instead of having those conversations, as a rebuilding team that's looking to sell at the deadline, we're now potentially talking about, hey, they might try to go out and get that veteran backup goalie in here, which isn't going to cost them a lot because they're still in this idea of like going in a playoff hunt, or going for a veteran forward. What veteran forward are you going after? Who's coming out of the lineup?
Who said that?
That was what was going on. I think Friedman. Friedman's 32 Thoughts said goalie and a veteran forward.
I think that they were I think Friedman was talking about them being interested in Zegras, but I don't think that they have anything close to what Anaheim would want for him.
I'm still on that though, right, Ann? I'm hearing a lot more Zegras stuff. One thing I've learned about Twitter is when you read someone's name enough, there's usually a little smoke around the fire, but sometimes it's all made up.
I don't think that there's enough. I don't think that there's enough that the Flyers would be willing to move to get him.
Imagine Torts with him. That'd be worth the price of admission.
He'd get here, and within 3 months of being here, he'd ask to get traded back to Anaheim. Hey,
great.
Before we continue, and we have about 6.5 minutes until the national anthem, we want to let people know about our live event that we have coming up down at La Sicilia in Oxford. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a really fun event that we have going on. Tickets are available over at shop.snowthegoalie.com. We'll have this banner going throughout the game during the periods while we have the game center up with the stats. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a big Italian buffet, gigantic screen that we're going to be watching. It's Press Roadshow. It'll be Flyers and Bruins. And we used to have the Bundy stash.
We got the meats and the cheeses.
You got
and
the
all
maybe
that,
a little tiramisu. How about a little tiramisu? How about some cannoli?
Hey, we got that. We got it all.
But anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to that. It's
Tickets
going to
are
be a lot
available
of
at
fun.
shop.snowthegoalie.com. I did have Steve Van Horn came up here, one of our longtime listeners, was up here. He was telling me about how excited he is for the live event. And he said, hey, I don't have a physical ticket. What's the dealio? And I said, well, we have you on a list. So you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about leaving the house and forgetting your ticket. We have a spreadsheet with everybody who's placed an order with the number of tickets and everything. So when you get there, we'll take care of it that way. You don't have to actually walk in. You don't have to print out your receipt. You can if you want, but you don't have to. But again, shop.snowthegoalie.com. I can't.
Now that you just gave out Steve's name, everybody's going to show up and say they're Steve Van Horn.
No, they're not, because I know who Steve Van Horn is.
Oh,
I might be the guy working the door.
You're working the door. You're working the table there, Russ.
I'm a
Russ
friendly
the
guy.
bouncer.
Bring some joy into
Russ
the
is gonna
evening.
Bouncer for our own show.
I'm a good bouncer. If Bundy picks me up, he can bounce me.
Let's roll you up in a ball.
Hey, by the way, Ogie, we love you, pal. We love you. You're the
Yeah,
best.
you know, Ogie's right. Bundy, I told Ant this before, but a lot of people pregame calling out Ant, not just in the chat, but like in the building, calling out Ant for not being here when Hayes is here. That it was, I don't know, like Ant, is Ant the lion in Wizard of Oz?
Ant's working. Think Ant would have cared? No.
I would not have.
Not a little
I don't
bit.
know. Listen, Bundy's going to bat for you.
That's it.
Remember that.
I know Ant wouldn't. He wouldn't care.
Yeah.
What's he going to do? Someone going to whack him?
It was funny. I was talking to Rob Thompson today, and it was nice to have a coach answer my questions.
Did he have any good answers?
Yeah, there was some good. We talked about some good stuff.
How does he feel about the Phils?
Well, we didn't get into that. We didn't go that 1,000 view on it. Like we talked about the Zach Wheeler contract.
I'd like to be him.
Yeah, right. $42 million a year.
Let's get to our predictions. And Andrew, do you have your prediction over there? Oh, there he is.
You gonna let him on the mic?
I have 4-3 Flyers.
4-3 Flyers.
Correct.
Okay.
Why are you looking at me?
Ant?
I'll go next. It's funny because the St. Louis, I think these two teams are pretty similar. The Flyers may be a little bit better production-wise overall when you look at the standings and the goals and everything else, but I think that they're very similar teams. The advantage the Flyers have better penalty kill. The Blues average scoring 3 goals a game and average giving up 3 goals a game. That's really what they do. And it's only you look back at all their scores, they're very similar most nights. I think that the Flyers are a better team, a slightly better team. I'll take the Flyers to win this one 4-2.
You said 4-2?
4-2, and I think it's going to be an empty netter. I really do. I think I'll get the empty netter that you didn't get the other night, Russ.
And you said 4-3 Flyers. I'm going to say 4-2 Blues with an empty netter.
I'm going to go with I'm going to go 4-2 Flyers. Sorry, Ant.
No, that's fine.
It's nothing I can do about it.
You go with your your pick is. It doesn't matter that it's the same score that I
Yeah,
read.
it's just I can't take. I don't see St. Louis winning it, and I think the Flyers are going to have a good night. I hope here. I think they should. This is a game with the schedule coming up for the Flyers that you don't want to lose.
That's true. Very true. Hey, we're going to tweet out our predictions. Make sure you reply there. You can reply here. Our wonderful listener, Allison, is maintaining that spreadsheet with like 130 people on it. And I'll ask her at some point for an update on the point standings, just so people know where they're at. Remember, whoever wins at the end of the season gets a prize. I don't know what the prize is yet, but it'll be a good prize. We'll make sure it's a good one.
Yep.
So make sure you participate. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think that's probably it for right now.
Anthony can go back to the swinging on the palm tree like Beverly Hills Ninja.
That's exactly right. Are you going to be with us at all tonight, or are you done now?
I'm done for the night.
Wow, he's met his contractual obligation to
Go
us.
relax, buddy.
Yeah.
Enjoy your night.
I've been at it since 8 o'clock this morning. Thanks. No.
He's the only guy who works. The only one. I don't know if you knew that.
Thanks for joining us, though, buddy.
Well, Ant's the only one who can't grow a mustache, so it'll be me and you. What did they call us after the game the other night? The Stash Bros.
Or the Stash Bros.
Super Stash Bros.
Yeah, but
that could be a T-shirt. Shop.snowgoalie.com.
Super Stash Bros.
Super Stash Bros.
By the way, you keep saying I can't grow a mustache. I can.
I've never seen you with a mustache.
I just choose not to.
I don't know if I believe it.
I don't like facial hair.
Okay. It's time for us to go. We'll be back. First intermission, second intermission, and post-game show here on the Press Row Show. Talk to you very soon. Welcome into the Press Row Show, and you can see there the Flyers are winning 1-0. They've nearly tripled the number of shots on net. I don't know, Bundy. I don't want to say it's a blue nuit, but I am saying that the Blues, St. Louis is certainly feeling the Blues after one period. A weird period where the Flyers really, a little Emerald Lagasse line here, they kicked it up another notch in the last couple of minutes there, last 3 minutes or so.
That was no blue nuit.
They really got it going.
We'll let you know in the third if
they
it's
put
a
a little
blue
bit of this
nuit.
spice, a little bit of whoop.
Yeah, you know what? I actually, the last comment here, Better Call Zach, counted 8 saves by Urson. I agree. I thought there was more than 5 shots by the Blues, unless they got one when I turned my back at the end.
Yeah.
But, we call that a quicksand period because both teams looked like they were skating in it most of the period. That was an important goal because the Flyers, the last 3 or 4 minutes, had really nothing going.
Yeah.
And then St. Louis had some pressure. They had about 3 10-bell chances, by my count, inside the last 6 minutes. They did not capitalize. They had that the 2-on-1 where the puck carried back out. It was left open, and the Flyers were able to get to it. The other one that hit the crossbar. And then the end where they were really forcing, and then the 2-on-1 started, and Poehling made that nice play around the sliding blue, and then Lawton just does what you're supposed to do, go to the front of the net. So
isn't that the thing that we've spent the whole freaking season, right, talking, I mean, especially on the power play, but just in general, crash the net, outwork the opponent, get in the dirty areas, go after the goals there. You don't have the skill, just get the goals however you need to get them. And Lawton, to his credit, crashes the net. I don't actually know if his stick ever touched that puck. It looked like it was just feet, it was skates, and then it was kind of just, it was over the line, and I believe the goalie's skate came in and pushed it a little bit further over the line. But definitely a good play there by Lawton and a smart play.
Really, really smart play. And like I said, a really important goal in a game that I don't know what the trajectory is going to go. I mean, there's not a ton of speed. There's not a lot of space. So, again, I think that the Flyers were okay, and hopefully that goal at the end gets them going a little bit because I don't think they had a great period. And they had the shot advantage, but they often do.
Yeah.
Not a great period by either team, but the Flyers should feel fortunate, I think, to have that 1-0 lead on a nice couple individual plays by Poehling and Lawton.
Oh, here we go, by the way. We mentioned this pregame. Allison says that she sent the spreadsheet with updates on the fan standings of the predictions. I think the last time Allison let us know was about 135 people she's tracking, which is incredible stuff.
That's unbelievable.
I only have to track the 4 of us. And occasionally we have a guest picker, like a Bill Meltzer, and I think Kevin Kurtz picked one game. But we stopped. We kind of bailed on the guest predictions. But Allison, thank you for your contribution here to the Press Row Show, which also, I don't know if you know this or not, Bundy is the #1 rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show this side of the Mississippi and south of the Arctic Circle.
I was not aware.
Yeah, apparently. Hey, before we continue on, we've been talking about it for a while now. March 16th, it's going along the bottom of the screen down here. March 16th, we're doing the Press Road Show. It's the same weekend as the Flyers Carnival. I believe that's also St. Patty's weekend. I'm not Irish, but apparently it's St. Patty's weekend. That Saturday, we're going to be doing the Press Road Show. Flyers Bruins on a big screen, big Italian buffet included in the price of your ticket. Shop.snowthegoalie.com. Get your tickets. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to be there. I'll be there. Ann will be there. Intern Andrew will be there. We've been told he's going to have a poem. He might be in costume. You got to be there to find out.
Leprechaun Andrew. Were those pants, the Christmas Grinch thing, were they green pants? Or?
I think they were yellow. Were they yellow? They were yellow pants?
All right, well, maybe we'll have you dye them. We're going to dye them green.
Do you still have the hat?
I ain't giving you $73.
You still have the hat?
Outfit, kid. I could have gotten that thing for $5.
Hold on,
Halloween store.
Let's let him weigh in. Go ahead.
The leprechaun costume has been purchased already.
Okay. Wait, I'm sorry. What?
Yes. I got ahead of it this time. And it was,
wow.
It was not $60.
This is big news. You bought the costume?
Yeah. Well, at this point,
Does it have a hat?
Yes.
Is it round on top?
Well, how else would it be?
Well, I don't know.
It's a leprechaun outfit.
I don't.
Do you think it'd be like rectangular on top?
I'm just saying that some leprechauns have round hats and some don't.
Imagine dressing Hitch as a leprechaun.
Can you do a Hitch Irish impression at the same time? Like if Hitchcock
let's get
was
you
Irish.
let's get you locked and loaded here.
I can't help but running through the 4-leaf clovers. I can't do it that well right now because I didn't have time to practice.
What is that? What is that?
That's Hitch, Irish Hitch.
How's that Irish?
It's Hitch's voice with an
Hold
Irish
on, do Hitch really quick.
Now I got the Irish Hitch in me.
I didn't like the way that period went tonight.
It's up here. Oh, good question there. Yeah, it is a little bit hard to a little hit you up there.
Nah, can't do it. It's weird. All right, intern Andrew, do you have an Irish accent? Is that at the ready?
No.
Okay.
No,
All right.
I've tried doing impressions before. I can't do anything right.
All right, well.
You have to work on some of these.
Yeah, you do.
You can't just
That is
like
true.
spitball and say do an Irish hitch.
That is true.
Yeah.
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 I mean, well, if we're good enough, and typically you're good enough to be able to do these on the fly, it is hard.
Yes.
If
And
somebody
you
has
gotta
a
mix
if
two
somebody wants to
accents in
submit
one.
a fan submission of Irish hitch, by all means. Jason Kelsey, Jersey. It's funny because during the period, what people didn't see at home, I'm sure, is that they did
I know what you're going to say here. Go ahead.
They did a big, thank you, Jason Kelsey, and they had the picture of him like waving with the spotlight, and then they showed 4 or 5 different people wearing a Jason Kelsey jersey, but not Jason Kelsey. I don't think he's in the building.
There was 2 tributes that period.
There was another one?
Yeah, Kevin Hayes.
Did they do it? I legitimately missed it. I am not trying to be funny.
They did a video montage of
Are you
Kevin.
serious?
Yeah, I mean, he was here for 3 years, right? So, I mean, it's nice. They did one for a guy that played 15 games somewhere, too.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for mine.
Here's the thing about videos. Bundy, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing about video montages like that. That montage, that's going to stay with that guy. No matter where he goes in this league, that video is going to follow him.
Didn't they do a montage for Jonathan Quick?
I think they did, yeah.
They did in Columbus, and he never played a game. He just went through there via trade.
We do have people, if you missed pregame, Ant's not here. He's ducking Kevin Hayes, obviously. And I am going to be very, very clear. I said that with a D, ducking, because it's the Press Row show. Ant is not here. There were people, it was funny, I told you pregame, but there were a lot of people, like an hour, right, before we even went live, people coming up here talking as they usually do. We have a lot of people who come up here pregame, during the game, postgame. And they're like, where's Ant tonight? Is Ant really not here? Is Ant going to go talk to Hayes? I'm like, no, he's in Florida. And they're like, oh, the timing. So, listen, he did have it planned, but I'm absolutely going to feed into this false narrative that Anthony is intentionally out of town so he doesn't have to face Kevin Hayes.
We'll
and I
stick
do
with
that for
narrative.
all of you. I do that for all of you. But he actually did have it planned, which kind of stinks because it would have been really funny if he had actually planned it just specifically to avoid Hayes, but he didn't. Hashtag send the link. All right. Let's get to some of these questions, comments, and concerns. Don't forget, second intermission, we have intern Andrew's trivia, and it's only me and you. I hope he didn't make it that hard of a question tonight.
We don't have any locker room presence, so we probably will have a short.
It's going to be a short post-game show.
Post-game tonight.
We're not even going to send intern Andrew down to do the torts presser. We're not sending you down. You know what? We're not going to send you down. If you want to go down there and you want to ask Torts a question, you can go ask Torts a question. Have the camera in his face. And you know what? I don't think, Andrew, in fairness, unless he watches the show back after, which is possible, I don't think he's going to give you a hard time. But if he does and he says,
not answering your questions,
then we'll know that he's watched your poem before. So it's the only way he would know. All right, anyway, let's get to some of the questions, comments, and concerns out here. A lot of things going on. I don't know why. I don't know what this is in regards to, but it makes me happy on the inside as a 90s kid. Ryan Schiffler says Chucky Finster was the backbone of Rugrats. Do you remember Rugrats?
I don't. I think the kids watched them for a little bit, but I did.
Your kids are about.
Yeah, there was like that. My kids were more in the Barney. Do you even know who that is?
I know who Barney is.
Yeah, Barney was
at my second birthday party or third birthday party, and I don't have a video of it anymore. Bundy, you know why?
Were you Barney?
I was not Barney.
Okay.
Do you know why I don't have the video anymore? Because about a few weeks after my birthday party when I was like 3, my mom recorded over the birthday party with Barney on it with her soap operas. So there was like an episode of Young and the Restless over my video. It was great. I love my mom. This was not her finest hour. She also did it with my birthday party with Lamb Chop. It's not traumatic. It definitely doesn't still haunt me to this day.
Lamb Chop? I mean, that
Remember Lamb Chop? There's like the redheaded lady.
Yeah, Cherry. Yeah. What was her name?
I don't know.
Cherry something.
Yeah, sure. The Lamb Chop. Yeah.
You did that?
Big Lamb Chop fan. Now I just eat the lamb chops. All right.
Anyway, I remember that thing.
Who was your favorite character on the Rugrats? Let's go to the comment section. All right. Let's. The Markster 68 asks, why is hitting the post or crossbar not a shot on net? It's literally a shot on the net.
It is, and that's a great point. And we do see a lot of that where, I mean, literally hit the crossbar. If the crossbar is part of the net,
Yes.
even though it's not part of the netting, they should actually say hit the netting.
Yes.
Or was attempted to hit the net. But that absolutely should be considered a shot.
Without a doubt.
I don't think.
I mean, you're within inches of scoring a goal.
100%. Yeah, I don't get that one, and I'm not sure. Sherry Lewis, there you go. Rob Greeley, thank you, Rob.
Lucky says shot on post.
I got the
not shot
first
on net.
name that I got. I got the first name. Actually tells you I may have known who Lamb Chop was. I remember that thing.
Greg
Was she a ventriloquist, right?
Was she?
She was, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Our fans will answer that. Was that Lamb Chop getting words shoved in his mouth?
Greg mentions that I was traumatized by Barney, and Tom says this explains a lot. So I guess it does. This is why I am the way I am. Ryan Schiffler, Cynthia, Angelica's doll.
Yeah, I don't know them.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't know this.
No.
I can't believe that.
No.
Your oldest is how old?
25.
Then no. Yeah, that does make sense. They would have missed it.
Yeah. My son doesn't do Rugrats stuff.
Yeah. Oh, not at his age.
Never did.
He's gonna have a hard time making friends in high school if he's following Tommy Pickles with the pigeon tail.
He's like football, quads, and G.I. Joe. That was what he liked.
God.
Something like that.
I have to mention this really quick because Kevin called me a hypocrite pregame, which I am sometimes, but I'm not totally sure what this is in reference to. I think that sometimes people miss the boat on things. They miss the point. So Kevin mentions that I said it was horrible for not starting Urson against the Penguins to help them get into the playoffs, and then also calls me Ross. I guess I have a split personality, sell off everything.
You can't play a guy every night.
Well, and I said last weekend, or it was 2 weekends ago now, I guess, that if the goal, I keep framing these things as, if the goal is to make the playoffs, you do X. If the goal is to rebuild, you do Y. And then Z is what I want to see them do, which isn't always the same thing. And I said, if their goal was to really, take Pittsburgh out of the playoff hunt and also boost their chances of making it in, Urson and net, either if it's back-to-back or having flopped them, probably would have been a better strategic play. But this whole thing about, sell, yes, I am still very much, we talked about this pregame, I'm still very much in, sell the rental guys, sell the UFAs, because as you and I agree, which is very interesting, I think Anthony has been expecting you to kind of side with him on, hey, sign Seeler to 4 years at a good cap hit, or, sign Walker to an inflated cap hit for 4 years. You and I think, are actually much more aligned than he wants. I think it's the mustache. I think it's because we're the Super Stash Brothers, and that's it.
What's up, guys? Again, I don't want to keep beating a drum. I really like Nick Seeler.
We all do.
But there's no doubt about it. He's been great. He's a great guy. He's a total warrior the way he plays. But again, they found Nick Seeler to do that job for that reason, at a reasonable number.
$775.
And that's why I think it's important to make sure that if you're finding depth, that you can find maybe a younger guy that can come in and do that job. And maybe it's not that easy. But again, we're not talking about a top power play guy, a number one defenseman.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm just concerned about the money. And maybe we don't really know what we're talking, about the money. Maybe there's some compromise in both of it. But again, who knows? They got a lot of work to do on that one, I think, and they're going to have to make a decision. But can you keep both guys? I don't think you can keep Walker and Seeler. I just don't know that that's in the cards.
So I got a little bit of context from somebody tonight about Walker and about the way that they view Walker.
Yeah, St. Louis. This guy asked, has a mixed bag ever won a cup? Yeah, St. Louis.
Yeah.
They were last place on January 4th of 2018, and they won the Stanley Cup. So I don't know. Yeah, but that's the most mixed bag you can find.
But that is also the ultimate anomaly. The reason that one always stands out, every time I've ever fought with Ant about, the idea of get in the playoffs and, see how it goes, and he usually points back to that. I say, the reason it's so easy to point back to it is because it's the only time it's ever really happened. And it makes it an anomaly. It's not the norm. That's not how teams typically build and are perennial contenders and, fight for a cup. But to Walker really quick, I talked to somebody tonight with some, I would say, solid understanding of what the team views when it comes to Walker and Seeler. And I asked, are we missing something? Because when we heard Walker being included in this trade in the offseason, we didn't know what to expect. And we thought, all right, probably third pair guy, maybe number 7. And this person said that the reason, or to some extent, that they were able to get Walker, he has exceeded expectations. But the reason that they think they were able to get Walker is because he had an injury as he was entering his prime, or his prime years, and that LA had a number of right-handed defensemen. And so maybe it was an embarrassment of riches but like they clearly thought that, hey, we don't think that this guy's going to be a solid second pair defenseman. He's outperformed, but they like what he's been this year, and maybe they do think that there is the path for him being a good player for a team for 4 or 5 years. He's 29, I believe.
Here's a little trivia for you guys that are out there, and I don't call it intern Andrew stuff, but if you go look at the teams that have won the Stanley Cup in the last 25 years, look at how many of them had the number 1, number 2, or number 3 pick on their teams. Almost every single one of them.
Yeah.
Every single one of them had a guy that was an impact from the top 3 picks in the NHL draft.
Yep.
And almost every single one, including St. Louis, they had Alex Pietrangelo, who was their dynamo defenseman.
Yep.
Crosby with Pittsburgh. You can go to Vegas with Eichel last year, but every one of them, I know they didn't draft him, they traded for him. You go to Tampa with LeCavalier. You can go on and on and on. And every one of them almost had those top 3 guys. Or a pick that was picked 1, 2, or 3. Colorado.
Yeah.
Tampa with Hedman. I mean, Stamkos.
Well, and I
right?
think that's why people get frustrated. And, like, maybe it's, the my kind of people, but, like, when you look at what this is and what this was billed as and what it ended up becoming, you're not in contention. And we talked about this a bunch of times now, but, like, even at the trade deadline this year, there's no way to bottom out. And also, this draft isn't looked at as – last year's draft was very stacked, right? You had generational talent in Bedard. You had a guy in Mishkov who, if he weren't Russian, probably would have been the number
picks.
2.
Yeah.
But you could have easily said, first 6 picks in that draft, first 7 picks in that draft, star caliber players, like could be, and a few of those guys could be franchise cornerstone kind of guys. This draft does not have that.
Taves and Kane, that was another 2. I forgot. Yeah, that was the three cups there, and I mean,
so
L.A.
So it's kind of like, look, if you can make a playoff, if you can make a playoff run or whatever this year, or you make it, you don't, whatever. You've at least got these guys feeling like they can win. But beyond that, they don't really have a path other than really selling off a lot of parts in the offseason for them to be in contention to get one of those top 3 picks. So I think that just fundamentally, it does put them in a weird position that, like, the elite talent that you need, you do have to have a bottom-out year or 2. And they will not have it. And it seems kind of hard to imagine that after they make a potential playoff run this year, that they're going to say, yeah, let's tear it down to the studs, or, like, let's move enough pieces that we're in contention for a bottom 3 pick next year.
That's really hard to do.
Like, could they? Yes, but especially after
your messaging goes a whole other way.
Especially after outperforming this year, it put them in a weird. It really did put them in a weird position. The one thing maybe you come back to is Mishkov would have been a top 3 guy, and, like, if he ends up being the franchise cornerstone that you hope he develops into, then, like, all right, you have your guy. You have your elite guy.
Eric Stahl. Was it Eric Stahl in Carolina that year? Yeah, he was a number 2 pick. Yeah. They also had they were a little different too. They did have other first round picks, and they had Brindamore, and they had a goalie who was great that year. But yeah, every team almost. I mean, there may be a fine one, but I think most teams had the 1, 2, or 3 pick from some draft on their Stanley Cup winning teams.
We got to go, but Kevin is very clearly an Anthony SanFilippo burner account with this comment. And if you've been watching or listening to the show, you know why. So, all right, time for us to go. We'll be back second intermission. into the Press Row Show, the number one rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show this side of the Mississippi and south of the Arctic Circle. I'm Russ Joy. That's Bundy. Anthony SanFilippo is on assignment in the Sunshine State. Instead of here, where he could be asking questions of the head coach, John Tortorella, or asking questions of a guy who scored a goal in that period for the St. Louis Blues, Kevin Hayes. I'll tell you something, though, Bundy. Kevin Hayes' fingerprints were all over that goal. Now, I don't know if you noticed what happened so far.
You got to tell what happened when the goal was scored.
Well, hold on. Before we get there.
This is the kind of stuff that follows people around for life.
Listen, early in the game, there was a video tribute to Kevin Hayes. He got a video tribute, which was really nice. And we saw John Tortorella on TV. He was clapping. He has the thumb thing. But he's like Solo Sikoa for all the wrestling fans out there. But he's clapping. And so, a nice enough reply from the fans. I wouldn't say it was like when Lindros came back to town for the first time. It was Mike Richards.
It was a golf
town.
clap.
It was like it was
a golf clap with making a 6-foot putt.
Okay,
it was great.
So
that was nice.
So that happened. But Kevin Hayes scores a goal. Kevin Hayes scores a goal in the period on a breakaway, falls over, scores the goal though. Now, how did he end up in that position where he's at the far blue line? Your guess is as good as mine. However, he does convert.
He scored.
And what happened, Bundy? Did the people stand and applaud for Kevin Hayes? They did not.
So
they
first. So let me actually back up. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Because the fans were very angry towards the refs, I thought, at that time for missed calls. So the goal was scored. So initially I thought, okay, well, they got scored on, and they're booing the situation of the fact that there was a non-call.
Yes.
It happened to be Kevin Hayes who scored, so you could have taken it that way. But then when they announced his name,
they did.
It was a glory of boos. Like, it was almost like, I mean, it's kind of stuff that a guy leaves here and you get booed like that. You carry that with you for life.
That's some
never
vitriol.
goes away from you.
I'm going to tell you something, Bundy. I'm disappointed in the fans because
I was shocked.
Because you boo a guy like that, and that kind of thing, that stays with him.
That's what I said.
Wherever he goes. And you know what? These fans are going to say that they were justified in booing, and I say, never mind.
So anyway, yes. But anyway, you know what? He does have one fan in the building, at least that we know of.
John Tortorella.
His former head coach
who never spoke poorly of him, who certainly has not alluded to him being addition by subtraction multiple times, including right after they named a new captain in Philadelphia.
How do you like
Definitely not that guy.
The guy with the cherry pick, too? I love that. Was a cherry pick goal.
Oh, my God.
I looked up at the thing, and I'm thinking, okay. Wait a minute. There's 9 guys inside the blue line, and he's at the far blue line just waiting.
How does that happen? But as a forward, how does that happen, Bundy?
I got to go back and see the replay, but I don't know if he snuck on the ice. But again, even if you did
you wouldn't be going that way.
You're not going to neglect your defensive responsibility on the ice.
If you're a good 200-foot player.
Okay, there it is. Ogie is telling us right now that Walker knocked down Hayes in the neutral zone. They played kick away. So what happened was he didn't. It's funny, Walker got back, but Hayes didn't. So he ended up being the guy with the breakaway. Oh, he got clipped. Okay, so we appreciate that.
All right, that's
fine. That's fine. But he ended up at the far blue line.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else you get a breakaway, but that's fine. And he did score. It was he was tripping with the puck. Did just fall between the 5-hole of Sam. Mm-hmm. It was not, again, it wasn't a great period by either side. It looked like the Flyers were a little bit better the first 10 of the period, and then St. Louis got those power plays, and they got a little bit of offensive momentum from it.
Yeah.
The big takeaway in the period, and we're not talking about contract, but we're talking about Nick Seeler, and he went off. I mean, Nick Seeler to not be able to move.
And it was, by the way, it was worse once he got off the ice.
Yeah, it was. He went up the tunnel.
And he got about 2 strides in the tunnel, and it was, he didn't collapse. I want to be very clear that we're not exaggerating this, but he definitely needed help. He got about 2 strides. I don't know how much they showed on TV, how far they showed him getting off the ice, but he was able to take a couple of steps, and then he didn't collapse, but you could tell he was in a ton of discomfort. So
he really, it was bad.
Yeah,
bad.
For him to stay down like he did for a bit, and then for him to kind of the way that he got off the ice, he's a tough guy. Like we know
that's what we're
one
saying.
Of the
how
intangibles.
tough he is. Yep.
So for him to go off that way, you have to think it's bad. I would assume that might mean bone, right? Like that.
We looked and. and the play was coming back down towards our end of the ice, where the Flyers bench is.
Yeah.
And as you're looking, you see a guy back down like on all fours, like he couldn't get up, and it was in that kind of distress from our angle, because I know the play probably followed the puck up the ice, and you would not have seen Nick back by his own goalie.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a shot. Someone said he just fell, and then someone else said, I don't know if it was a shot block. We obviously assumed it was a shot block.
Yeah.
But again, that's a situation where, man, you don't know the situation. Is he out for an extended period of time? We don't know. I mean, one thing I'll tell you with Nick Seeler, he's Superman tough. Like, he's like a piece of iron. So for him to be hurt, you know it's real, because that's his game. That's who he is, playing through injuries and pain and doing all those tough things for your team. So, again, I hope nothing is serious or long-term, because there's a lot of things that weigh in on a player like Nick Seeler right now.
Yeah.
Contract, extension,
free agent
trade,
yeah.
right. Like, whatever they got planned for him could be derailed because of a situation like this. So let's hope he's okay, first of all, as a person, and then and that it's not something that's going to be a long time.
Yeah, so there you go. Shane McFarland saying shot block, high ankle. Savellin Forrest says direct impact to his ankle, it's broke, is his guess. You feel bad for him. Like, again, a good guy, well-liked, well-respected, up and down the lineup in the organization. Just a really positive guy to have on your team. And now we're gonna have to separate that here temporarily, all right? Like, we can all agree, human side. We've now addressed the human side of it. Hockey side of things could not be a worse outcome if he is as injured as he appeared to be, because once again, you're in a position where you're looking at an upcoming trade deadline that's now the second defenseman potentially that teams have had interest in that may be lost for an extended period of time, if not the season, and would in theory be unable to be traded at the deadline.
I hate these kind of games.
Yeah.
Like, I just, it's something that happens in them, and it's like, where not everybody's super sharp.
Yes.
And when you're not totally super sharp on Monday night game against a Western Conference team where you're really getting dialed in to play your teams in your own conference, these are the kind of games where I see guys get nicked and dinged up pretty well.
Yep.
And it seems to have a history in the league. So, even Forster after that, it was a blocked shot, something happened to him, and he kind of looked dinged for a second. He was okay. But that's what happens this time of the year.
Yeah. All right, let's brighten the mood up here a little bit. It is Dollar Dog Night down here. Unlike the team across the street, caddy corner from here, they don't do buy one get one nights here at Flyers games. They've got the official Dollar Dog Night.
Yeah, they changed that somewhere.
It
right?
was. Yeah, it was. So we did have somebody pregame come up and tell us that their ticket said Dollar Pretzel Night, but at some point it must have been changed over to Dollar Dogs. I don't know. Is that a response to the Phils? I don't know. But Dollar Dogs here at a Flyers game. You got to love it. All right. Little positivity. We're going to bring on intern Andrew because it is the second period. And when it's the second period, it's time for the very well-researched intern Andrew trivia time. You can join us in the comments section on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And you can weigh in as well. Bundy and I will try to get it correct. If we can't, we will look to the comments. But until then, Andrew, keep in mind, Anthony's not here. So we are down to 2 brains instead of 2.5. So
that took me a second. That went over my head. All right. So the second trivia question that I asked this season was February 12th when Flyers were playing the Coyotes and neither of those teams had a captain. Well, coincidentally, 48 hours after I asked that question is when the Flyers named Couturier the captain. So now our opponent tonight, St. Louis Blues, also have a brand new captain this season. It's our old friend Braden Shen.
Yes.
So other than the Flyers and Blues, there are 4 teams this season that have a brand new captain this year. Can you name them?
Not including those 2, so it's 6. And there's 4 more.
6 in total, correct.
Brad Marchand.
That's 1.
Yeah.
You're all right.
Nice.
You're hot out of the gate.
Well, because Bergeron retired, yeah, so that would be the obvious one.
So, yeah, Boston is 1.
Calgary has a new one, too, the Swedish player, I believe.
Bundy's on 1 tonight.
That's 2 for 2.
It's Michael Backlund.
Michael Backlund, yeah. I said the Swedish, so I was actually, I knew what I was talking about.
2 teams left. I would say the one player is a household name. 1 is pretty obscure, so I'll be impressed if you get it.
One's a household name, and the other is...
Captain Rat. That's funny.
Yeah, you got me. You want to give us the no-namer first? Or you want Western Conference, Eastern Conference?
I'll say this. They're both Western Conference Canadian teams.
The Jets.
Winnipeg. Adam Lowry.
Adam Lowry, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the last one absolutely is a household name. All-star this year.
Vancouver?
Yes.
Pedersen?
No.
No, it's
It's not Hughes.
no. Not,
oh, it was Hughes.
Quinn Hughes.
is he the captain there?
Yes.
Hey.
I thought he was the assistant captain.
So I'd say as of September, he was named the captain. September of 23, he was named the captain.
Hey. Look at us. We don't need Ant.
We don't need Ant, I don't think.
See that? When Ant's here, we don't get these right. Well, sometimes we do. But you got 2 and I got 2.
Yeah.
You know what? Look at us.
I'm proud of you. Bundy was firing on all cylinders out of the gate. I'm impressed with you tonight.
Well,
Boston,
yeah,
Boston
Boston was an
Calgary.
easy one.
Yeah.
Calgary was a tougher one, but because I just couldn't remember Backlund. But I remember I reading it, I'm like, Backlund?
I would have never thought Adam Lowry, and I never would have thought Michael Backlund.
Yeah,
he's the youngest. Quinn Hughes is the youngest active captain in the NHL. First American-born captain of the Canucks.
Yes, that is correct.
Very sly offensive player, that's for sure.
Holy crap. Do you know how old Quinn Hughes is?
Is he 21, 22?
23.
23, yeah.
Captain at 23, that's...
Yeah. Gabriel Landeskog was captain at 19.
How old was McDavid? He was pretty young too, right?
Probably a 20-year-old, I'm guessing.
How about that?
So Luke is the youngest of the 3, right? How old is he?
Probably 19.
Yeah, that's... Some families just
He's
have
the
it all,
worst one of the 3. They all play in the NHL, but he's the worst one of the 3.
I guess you could say that.
Yeah.
All right, but good for
stuff.
you guys.
Good stuff again. That's
Matthew
another
Bennick here with a good question. What does intern Andrew become Andrew? I don't know if he ever does. I think that there could be a path. It's like a path to citizenship, you know?
It's like, what's that show that used to be on Sons of Anarchy?
Yeah.
You take the patch off there,
I never saw it. I know what the show is, but I don't know. I don't know.
Then you make you a full patch member. You were doing the prospects. Prospect was the one you're doing, and then you've been around long enough.
If you go down post game and you ask Tortorella, given the last few months with Kevin Hayes in this city, how do you think it felt for him to score that goal in the second period? If you go down and do that, we will remove the intern tag, and you will just be Andrew.
The intern Andrew has a nice ring to it. I kind of like it, though. I don't know how, if I asked that question, I don't know how well that would go over.
Oh, fourth host Nancy says when he shows up with a mustache.
No, I'm with Anthony. I can't grow facial hair. I just look like an idiot if I grow it out, so.
You can get a fake mustache.
I could do that, actually.
Oh, Brandon Ficarra, though, with a good idea. We can make you producer Andrew.
Doesn't have the same flow. I mean,
intern Andrew does sound better.
It does.
Intern Andrew is good.
But
he will eventually get too old for the intern, and he'll either have to.
When he turns 40, then he'll be too old for intern Andrew.
I'll still be here.
If you want. You're here as long as we are, kids. So whatever makes you happy.
We got the heart still ticking.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll still be here at that point.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, cool.
Go Flyers.
Good job, intern Andrew. Nice trivia tonight. You should be proud. You should be proud of yourself on that.
All right, 3:54 coming up, and again, you know what I like here? This is a third period where you kind of look at the game, and it's not been a great game for either team. I think the better pressures come from St. Louis.
Yes.
At times they took over, or they did at least have a shot advantage for a moment or two. So now this is a great type of game if you're for both teams. Third period tied. It's going to be a little bit like playoffs. If you want to kind of look ahead, you get a sneak peek at a playoff game right now because both teams are going to be vying hard for the 2. So I'm excited to see what happens here. And again, I look at this as another big learning experience game for the Flyers and some of the younger guys. Here's what you're dealing with. Here's what the games are going to look like coming down the stretch when you're competitive. Let's go out and execute. They did not execute properly in the second period. St. Louis got better. So it'll be interesting and more important to see what the Flyers do in this game to make sure that St. Louis doesn't carry in that offensive momentum they had at the end of the second period.
I'm not going to ask the question that has become a running joke.
Let me guess.
About how important are the first 5 minutes, because we know how important they are. But what are you looking for from the Flyers in the first 5 minutes to be able to get St. Louis back on their heels and to take advantage of what should be and really has trended for a lot of the game as being a Flyers win.
Yeah, I mean, again, but the Flyers at the same time, they've been gifted a little bit in this game. They've had Urson has been good, Bennington's been good. First 5 minutes is always important in a very close game, whether you're up a goal, down a goal, or you're tied, because you want to set the tone for the rest of the period. If I'm the Flyers this period, I try to keep St. Louis, clog up the middle of the ice as much as possible, keep them to the perimeter, because that's where most teams are going to want to try to play in the middle if they can, but I don't think St. Louis wants to do it. They have Braden Shen that has a willingness to go in between the hash marks, but the Flyers need to get the pucks in deep if there's no play, with authority, make smart plays with the puck, and then when you don't have it, make sure you battle your asses off in the zone to get the puck out. Treat it like a playoff game. Agreed. Where one mistake can cost you the game, and that's why you have to be so focused. Looks like, I'm guessing there'll be 5 defensemen this period because of the injury to Seeler. If we get an update on that post game, we'll give it to you, but it looks like we're going to get lower body injury will not return if it hasn't already come out on Flyers Twitter.
Again, a totally brutal injury, no update yet. But it will be surprising, to say the least, if we see Seeler in the third period. That's one of those injuries, too, that, if I remember correctly, like you've talked about it before, you get an injury in that skate area. The worst thing you could do is take it off. So if
Never take it off. Depends where it is, though. That's for the foot, Russ, for the foot.
Yeah.
The ankle's totally different.
Okay.
Yeah, so what happens is when you take a laser off the foot or a side of the boot and it hurts in the moment, but the key is to leave the skate on. As soon as you take the skate off, you'll never get it back on that night. Next day at practice, you will.
Yeah.
But that
the
night,
swelling will go down.
Yeah. And if it's broken, it's broken. But you can still play as long as the skate's tight around the wound.
Do you expect to see him kind of try to tough it out here in the third?
He's out there right now.
He's out there?
He's out there.
Well, that's Nick Seeler in a nutshell. Trades back on.
$6 million a year for the next 7 years, if you ask Anthony SanFilippo.
So that's what happens. We don't look behind us. Thank you, fans. 34 seconds.
Did you see it, or was it the people in the comments?
Somebody had left a comment, and then I looked over your shoulder.
So you hashtag confirmed it, though.
Yeah.
Good on you, young
Verify
man.
my sources.
That's what a good intern does.
Check
stuff.
Don't forget, he's the Snooki Goalie Research Department.
He is. He's our resource department.
We will be back here post-game. Do us a favor. Spread the word about the Press Row Show. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We will be back post-game. Join us then. Talk to you soon. Welcome into the Press Row Show, the number 1 rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show this side of the Mississippi and south of the Arctic Circle. Flyers lose in a shootout, a game that just simply would not end.
Yeah, one save better, Binnington in the shootout. Urson made a great save there on the pad going up on the third shooter.
The third shot, yeah.
And that was a great save. It was one of those games. It just felt like I call it like the quicksand game, where there's no flow.
Yep.
Both teams had trouble finding any kind of momentum. St. Louis, I thought, played a very good road game.
Yes.
Binnington was very good.
He was.
Urson was very good too when he had to be.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't great like in terms of like watching the game. I'm not going to look back at the end of the year and remember this one for it's great, fast puck move and play. But you know what? It happens sometimes. It's disappointing loss, but you take the point. There's a certain games you're not going to win, but you get the luxury of getting the extra point in the overtime, and I think the Flyers can be pretty happy about that. I again, one thing that jumped out at me, Russ, we were talking about it in overtime. The 3-on-3, like the way the Blues played it, the Flyers didn't have the puck till halfway through the 3-on-3 in the 5 minutes. Like 2:35 is when they first touched the puck. Then they had it for about 29 seconds and gave it back to St. Louis. So I know the fans hate it when they swing the puck back to the goalie or way back, but those are the rules that are still in place.
Yep.
I have a feeling over time they're going to tweak that because you, like literally, and I mean this, if you played 3-on-3 and you didn't want the other team to touch the puck for 5 minutes, you could do that.
Oh, without it, like
Easily. Like you could play keep away 3-on-3 for with the least skilled guys in the league could do it.
Yep.
So, and that's the problem is when you get in the offensive zone, these guys don't see any play. They just swing the puck back out to the far blue line, even use their goalie sometimes. And it's fair. You're allowed to do that, but I hate it. I do hate it.
It took 2 minutes and 25 seconds for the Flyers to get any semblance of possession in the overtime.
Yeah, and the two guys they started.
And then they had it for 30 seconds, and then it kind of went back and forth a little bit down the stretch.
Yeah, the two guys that started the overtime, too, were Cates and Paling with Sanheim, which is interesting, right? Like, you think you'd put other guys out there, but I'm reading some stuff, and I didn't notice it, really. Maybe the game, the third period kind of flew. Was Coots benched in the third? I'm asking the fans. Like, if you guys heard that, I didn't notice it. I don't know, unless he's injured. Maybe that's part of them, watching his minutes.
Rob Greeley says that Coots didn't get a shift in the overtime.
And he took the first shot on the shootout.
I believe so, yeah.
I didn't. With the 3-on-3. I mean, I understand that a little bit.
Yeah,
he's a bigger body. He's lumbering a little bit. You need a little bit more speed when you're playing the 3-on-3, or guys that have a little bit more freewheeling type of game to them. And Coots isn't there right now, or has been. But I think for the most part, that's a tough spot for the coach to put him out on the 3-on-3.
Yeah, I mean, I see there was a comment here, and I wanted to get to it. Ryan Cummings, Coots gets the C. Playing time gets diminished to the fourth line. Doesn't get a shift in overtime. Cates is playing in overtime. Are we missing something? Now, I get what you're saying about the OT period. Totally get that. But I do think that, listen, it's a fair critique. There is truth to it, and we pulled the numbers a couple games ago just about his diminished minutes in the month of February, and that I believe that trend has continued in the month of March. It's interesting. All I'll say is it's interesting that they chose to make the decision to name him captain, to put an A on Konechny. And listen, you don't have to say that the things are related. We thought for a while that could have also been because they thought that they were closer to trading Lawton than maybe they are now. But it is a fact. Like, Couturier's minutes have dropped since he was named captain. Now, I can't imagine that those two things are linked.
Yeah,
optically, you go, man, that's not ideal.
It is
not ideal,
and
for your captain to not get a shift in overtime.
You're right.
Not ideal.
It's an interesting one, and maybe I know we don't have our locker room potato cam down there tonight.
Yeah.
To get Tortson 1970 Panavision. But I'm sure there'll be an explanation or not. But yeah, Coots, it feels like since he went, again, but when you look at his numbers have really diminished in the last 35 days, real-time days, not games.
Yeah.
His numbers have gone down, and it's been a struggle for him at times. And again, when you come off 2 years of back surgery, All right, guys. Catch you next game. I think it just takes time. And we were saying, like, beginning of the year, you haven't played in 2 years, so your body might come in feeling fresh, but it's going to hit a wall, especially when he's been used as many valuable minutes to this point in the season. And again, I tell people, like, where would they have been without a good, strong Couturier for 45, 50 games?
So coming into tonight, he'd played 2 games in the month of March, and he was down to 14 minutes and 41 seconds of ice time over those 2 games. Andrew, can you pull tonight's numbers when you get a chance? Just want to see what his time on ice was tonight. But we did say this the other day, but just to give people an idea. In October, played 9 games, 19 minutes and 38 seconds. November, 19 minutes, 13 seconds. It went up in December to 20 minutes and 17 seconds per game. January, 20 minutes and 36 seconds. Then it dropped drastically in February down to 15 minutes and 49 seconds of average ice time. And he's under 15 minutes coming into tonight's game. He was higher tonight? Oh, you have it. Okay, what's the...
I have it here.
What's the number there, Andrew? Go ahead.
12:07 total ice time
there you go.
tonight.
12:07?
12:07.
Okay.
You want some of the numbers here. Paling, 20 minutes played tonight.
Wow.
Yeah. Lawton.
What did Lawton have?
21:37.
Makes sense because he's been relying on Lawton more of the Couturier kind of role.
27-25. I'm looking for Atkinson 10. That's way too
dreadful.
many.
Abysmal.
Brink 10:47. Cates 17.5.
He loves Cates.
Coots 12:07. Farabee almost 18.
Yeah.
Forster. I mean, this is unbelievable. I'm 22:07.
Forster.
Yes.
Listen, the coach has
and
guys.
Frost 14:41. I mean. You're trying to
You're trying to get back in a game, and he's arguably the guy with the best vision on the team, the best playmaking ability on the team.
I mean, Hathaway played a minute more than Frost in this game. So I'm not suggesting anything nefarious, but these are the numbers. Mark Stahl 15 minutes, Tippett almost 18, Sean Walker 22.5, York 26 minutes, and Zamula just 14:30. Just going over it, I mean,
Well, okay, so Nick DeCristo says here, Torts is committed to the rebuild if he's playing Paling 20 minutes a night. See, I disagree.
No, he's not a 20-minute-a-night guy.
No. No. The joke is that by playing him, that's helping you in the rebuild in terms of, like, not winning games. Listen, it's very clear what's happening here. It's incredible. It's getting clearer by the day. It's a matter of if you're willing to open your mind and open your heart to what we're seeing and what is happening. The coach is going all out to win these games, to make the playoffs. There is no semblance of building with the intention of trying to develop all of these young guys or give young guys a legitimate chance here. That's not what's happening. It's become abundantly clear. Frost is your best playmaking forward.
He is. And again...
And he played 14 minutes?
14 and a half. But it's not so much the 14 and a half. It's how much other guys...
relative to him.
That don't provide the offense play below him. And listen, we love those guys. It's nothing against Garnet Hathaway and Paling and Cates.
They all play an important role.
They're depth players, right? That's what they are.
And look, the Lawton number, again, it's not surprising because we've seen with the dip in minutes that Couturier's had, Lawton's numbers have gone up. Lawton has played far better since the All-Star break. There's no debating that. I have no issue. That's inverse proportionality. I have no issue there. That's totally fine. I have questioned now for quite some time if this coach rode Couturier into the ground, and with the continuing dip in minutes and the inability, there's your captain, who is your, in theory, when healthy-ish, your best defensive forward, a Selke Trophy winner, him not getting a shift in overtime is indicative that there is a problem. And if there's a problem, they need to figure out what it is. And if he needs to rest, he needs to rest. And if he needs to play, then he needs to play. But playing him in a diminished role right now, it's not sending the right message. That is not the way to get things done. Something is fundamentally flawed. And again, I think this coach is trying to chase down every point because coaches don't like to lose. Coaches like to make playoffs. It's good for them. It's good for whatever they're trying to sell as the culture, for ego, for all that. Coaches don't want to go home at the end of the regular season. But this is not how you build, and this is not how you build the confidence of a lot of these young guys and allow them to make mistakes and allow them to develop.
But at the same time, he's going to say, look where we are in the standings. And that's a fair return on that. They've gotten guys to step out of comfort zones, and they've been uncomfortable, and they've played a heck of a job. They've done a heck of a job this year. A lot of guys have stepped up and played good, strong minutes. Brandon Ficara asked about York, and I think York has really come along nicely. Yeah. He's a good power play player. I think he's got the ability to be a good two-way defenseman. I think he's improved with his stick. He's done a good job in the zone. What I like with York is we don't talk about him much, and I always say that's a good thing. When you're not really talking about a player, that's a bonus to the player because that means that you're not noticing mistakes.
Yep.
And if he makes a simple play, people don't really acknowledge it because that's what you're supposed to do anyway.
Yeah.
And he's been good. I had another question I wanted to answer.
This question is actually good. While you're looking for that one, Titan Flyer says, Bundy, is playing time ever built into a player contract at all?
That was the one. That was the other one.
You can't.
You can't.
You can't do that.
Can you imagine if you said, hey, I have to play a minimum of 15 minutes a night.
Yeah.
And you're just actually dog breath at the beginning of the game.
Yep.
And that's where the coach is like, how can I play this guy 15 minutes a night when I'm afraid to play him one shift?
Yeah.
So there's no way that could ever happen. That's a good question, though, but no. That would be taking it to – see him, Mike, taking it to the new limits. Our Oregon player. He's one of us now, too.
He's like an unofficial part of the
Snow the Goalie crew, yeah.
He's one of us. One of us. There's one thing I did want to look for. I'm looking for the metric right now from tonight's game. I'm just looking to see if I can find it really quick because there's something that has been standing out, and I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not talking out of my keister Sutherland when I say it. I'm looking for the face-off numbers from tonight. I'll find them at some point. I saw somebody saying in the comment section that the Flyers need to be better on faceoffs. They need a center who can win faceoffs. I mean, it's true. They've definitely gone through some spells of struggling on faceoffs. But
yeah, and Coots is pretty decent on faceoffs too. You know, like when he gets going.
So I have the
Snow the Goalie stat department.
I have the percentages right here. I don't have the total numbers though, but very even. 50.9% for the Flyers, 49.1% for St. Louis faceoffs.
The crazy thing in all of this, I guess, and I don't know how you fall on this, Bundy. Like, you know, talk about like quality shots and high danger chances and all that. They outshot St. Louis 41-26 in the game. They outshot the Blues 6-2 in the overtime, despite the fact that, again, St. Louis had 2 minutes and 25 seconds of pretty much uncontested possession, in the OT, and they still tripled them up on shots in that extra session. When you walk away as a player and you realize that you've outshot the opposition by 15 and you still lose and you lose in a shootout, is that demoralizing as a team?
Not really.
No. Okay.
No, as soon as a shootout for me, I was involved with it 1 year. As soon as it came, my night was over. That was it. We weren't going to go 20 deep and get me in. I'd shoot after the backup goalie.
Yeah.
But you missed that one. Anyway, I said if the shootout went that long, I would have shot after the backup goalie.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there you go.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was kind of it. Like, your night, you do your job, and you get off, your night's over for a defensive defenseman. So you hope the forward score, and you hope your goalie makes a save, but it didn't happen.
Let's get to Bill Barkley here. And it's almost a shame to some extent that we don't have Ant here for this because Ant is living on a different planet than I am, at least. Bill says, does anything happen by Friday to make us believe it's still a rebuild? Trade deadline's coming up. Is there anything that's going to happen that's going to indicate that this is still a rebuild? Anthony said pregame he expects one trade, a single trade. He thinks it'll be Walker.
You know what? If you think there's going to be 5 or 6 guys moved, I'd be shocked. Like we thought. I just don't see that happening. I think it's really, really hard to do things in season. You have to match numbers and do things. So that's what Anthony said, one trade. I mean, I think they're going to try to do more, but it's not always what you want to do. It's what the other team is willing to do as well.
Sure.
In a trade. So it is what it is in terms of where they're at, and it'd be a matter of what other teams want and what you have that's available to sell.
Yeah.
And that's the magic of what the front office has to do, and they have to be right about it.
Guys that were in theory for sale as of let's say a month ago: Rasmus Ristolainen, Nick Seeler, Sean Walker, Morgan Frost, Scott Lawton.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let's go down those names real quick. Risto, hurt, ineligible to be traded.
Yeah.
No team's going to go after him right now. Seeler, Anthony said pregame is more likely to be re-signed than not.
Okay.
Right? Which is interesting, just given the numbers that we're hearing. Walker, who Ant now says is more likely to be traded than not. Okay. So there's your one. Morgan Frost.
No, I think he'll be here.
I think Frost is going to stay. I do think that there will be a team that will make a good offer for him at the deadline, but I don't know how you move him.
Yeah.
I really don't. It's not that I'm saying that I think he's like this vital key cog in the future of the team, but I think he's shown you enough throughout the entirety of the season. It's not just a hot stretch. He looks significantly better. And then Scott Lawton. The only way I think they're going to move Lawton at this point is if you get back to that first-round pick offer, right? Like, I think that's the only way. And again, given what we're seeing, given the rotations that we're seeing, given the time on ice that we're seeing, they're not going to trade him. This coach is not going to be – I mean, listen, the GM makes the call, right? But the coach has influence. The coach is not going to be a fan of trading Lawton, who he's now essentially flipped minutes with Couturier.
If we can,
that's not going to happen.
If we can do a show Friday, someone mentioned it, we'll try.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Depends on availability, but we'll
100%.
definitely have info on that beforehand.
I think we'll do one right after the deadline. We'll figure it out.
Not a whole lot to recap tonight. Just a 2-1 game and a shootout.
No, but I think it's good to kind of like set the stage for what's coming, because I don't want people to get themselves overhyped about what can happen here. Because again, them being in playoff contention is great if you like the idea of trying to squeak in and see if you can pull off that first-round upset, have Torts kind of do what he did with Columbus, pull off a first-round upset. And if that's you, by all means, live your fandom, live your best life. But for the people who are looking at this thing from beyond this year, this is a complication. This whole year is essentially a complication as you're trying to like get that elite talent, because you are not in contention right now to get a pick that allows you to get elite talent, quote unquote, in the draft.
Kind of stuck in what they call dead man's land.
They're in purgatory.
Yeah, that's where you either make the playoffs and you lose in the first round, and you're picking, 15th.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we've talked about that. You can't have a loser attitude, though.
Yeah,
you got a team to make the playoffs, make it.
And we'll see what happens, and we'll see as Friday comes. Look, we've gone back and forth now. Like, even Ant's reporting, even the things that Ant has kind of passed along. Seeler and Walker. Last week, it was flipped. It was more likely to re-sign Walker and trade Seeler. Now, this week, it's the inverse.
Yep.
And these conversations are going to keep going. I'll tell you where it's a failure. I do have a thought on where it's a failure. If none of these guys are moved, that is a failure.
Yeah, and I think there's a team that's going to need Sean Walker.
There should be at least one guy moved, and I would also make the argument that you should absolutely be involved as a third party to a move where you're taking on salary and you're getting at least one asset. This is one of the very rare times where you're a team that has significant cap space because Carter Hart's now off the cap, because you could theoretically move Ryan Ellis to LTIR. You have the ability, I wouldn't say unprecedented, but you have a ton of money that you can absorb a massive cap hit. And if you go through the deadline and you can't find your way into being the facilitator and get some kind of draft capital or change of scenery, young player that you can take a look at this year and over the summer and like give a chance going into next season, that to me is a failure. That's where, like, when we sit here on Friday.
Let's give them the week. Get stuff done.
They have the week. Let's see what they do.
We'll get more updates through the week, and we'll get them. We'll share them with you.
Yeah. Hey, last thing.
Yeah.
Kevin Hayes got me a point tonight.
Kevin Hayes got you a point tonight.
He got me a point tonight. I am one behind you in the standings. Everyone else picked the Flyers.
I hope the three times.
I think you have 35
three times
points.
he got booed here tonight. I hope he doesn't carry that with him for life. That's all I got to say about that.
That's really well said.
Thanks, man.
Really well said. All right, we will be back later this week with an episode of Snow the Goalie, which somehow still remains the only Flyers podcast. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, whatever you get your podcasts. Don't forget, live show, March 16th, the day before the Flyers Carnival. We're at La Sicilia in Oxford. Tickets are available on shop.snowthegoalie.com. Big Italian buffet included in the price of your ticket. Watching Flyers Bruins on the big screen. Huge buffet. Door prizes. Going to be a great night. Set the time aside. Come join us in Oxford on March 16th. Spread the word. Get some Flyers fans in your life. Get your tickets. And we'll see you there. So for Bundy, for Ant, who's down in the Sunshine State, for intern Andrew on the other side of the glass, I'm Russ. Thanks for listening to, maybe even watching, Snow the Goalie's The Press Row Show. Flyers lose tonight, but they're still winners in your heart. Have a great night.